So, good morning. There I am. So, before we bring our guest on stage, and she is a debut, soon to be authored, soon to be book author. Her name is Alison Cruz. I'd like to go ahead and tell you a little bit about her. So, first of all, she's a technology leader. She has had various leadership roles across big tech, telecommunications, and cybersecurity sectors. So I like to call people like her these big brain people. I happen to have one in my family too, in my family actually, but a very intelligent book author. And she successfully led global teams spanning the US, Latin America, Europe, and Asia, and so that brings the global strategic insight into her work. But in addition to that, her career in technology, she has pursued her deep interest in mental health. She's earned a master's degree in counseling, psychology, and has dedicated her time and expertise to several nonprofit organizations, and including crisis intervention, mental health, hospice care. There's just a ton more that I'm going to let you read about and learn about as we share her website for her book. And you can look at my flyway here, and there's no wind in here. There's not even a fan here. So you'll learn more about her and learn about her engagement and her participation in volunteerism and activeness in her church as well. So let's bring her on stage, because these shows always go very fast. So Alison Cruz, welcome to Now Conversations. Yay!
Thank
See
you.
if I had an applause machine.
Yeah, we need some applause
Right?
going off in the background.
Yes. We always say this, it's fun on our team. Where's our admin? So where's our admin? Let's get an applause machine. So
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, and congratulations to becoming a published author.
Thank you. It's so exciting. And thank you for inviting me on this platform today. I can't even tell you all the range of emotions I'm feeling as we get closer to the book being launched.
Right. So let's just let me mention right there. So as we said, soon to be published author. So your book, The Big Reveal, and we'll give some more information about that. But The Big Reveal will launch on May 15th at 6 p.m. in Sparksman Wharf. And actually, it is a public event, open to the public. So we'll give you some information afterwards. But this is the book, The Big Reveal, Keys to Building Your Dream Home and Your Dream Marriage. So very excited to dig into the book. But let's ask you, let's start with a couple questions.
Sure.
I'd like to say, let's start from the beginning. People are watching this broadcast, and they, like many people have told them to write a book. They feel like they should write a book. Other people, when they read others' books, they say, I should write a book about this. So how do you start, and how did it start for you?
Okay, so I've always been a bit of a writer in my private life, more as a hobby than any serious pursuits in creating any published works. So fast forward to maybe late 20 teens, and I realized that there was a book forming in my head that I hadn't started to write down yet. And then I just got this overwhelming compulsion, divine inspiration, to start, penciling some stuff down to see if it's real or imagined, right? And so the book sort of came together on its own. It's a culmination of some of my passions and some of my hobbies. I've always been a person who was super interested in real estate as a little girl, although I ended up in tech. And so after maybe buying 3 homes as a single person, and then another 3 with my husband, I started to realize that there was a lot of similarities in the process and the emotions involved in both of those major commitments. And so, yeah, sitting down and fleshing out the book, it sort of I won't say it wrote itself, but it almost did. I was awakened at 4 o'clock every morning. That's operating hours, with this inspiration to jot some things down. And so all those hours of watching HGTV, all of my experience with, closing on homes, and then this marriage that I'm in right now, and just having a an interest and a passion for healthy marriages, because marriage is a ministry in and of itself. And it can just change a whole generation, a healthy one, just like an unhealthy one can destroy a generation. And so it
Right.
just came together. And I'm so excited that it did, and that I stayed committed to the process.
Well, thanks. I am welcoming someone to the live stream right now, but let's dig into your book then, because you already started most of part of 50% of it. So I love this graphic, and we've got some great graphics where we show your book with a couple. And so, as we said, the tagline or the subtitle is Building Your Dream Home and Your Dream Marriage, Keys to That. So you talked a little bit about your experience in building a home, building several homes, first as a single party, and then your marriage, and the current home that you live in now on the beach. You talk about that process within the book. Talk about the other 50% where you've likened it to the relationship, and that in parallel, and maybe even share how we formatted the chapters, because it's very unique how we did it.
It is.
I'm so
It's
proud of
really,
it.
I'm so proud of us. We did good, Lisa. So some of the things, if you can think about buying property, I flesh out some of the steps. And so I talk about looking back in terms of your previous experiences to determine what will work and what won't work. And that holds true for both your dream home and your dream marriage. Your past experiences with marriage, even as a kid, like what you've seen and your ideas about marriage, will frame your future marriage experience. And so if you had a lot of really positive role models that you identified with, then you're going to probably be looking to recreate what you've seen. And so likewise, I talk about must-haves, right? When you go to buy a house, you give your realtor your must-haves. It's got to be this location. It's got to be a craftsman. It's got to be modern. It's, all of these things that you know that you don't want to compromise on. Well, the same holds true when you're looking for your ideal partner in life. There's some things that you know are your core values that you're not going to compromise on. So just being aware of what those must-haves, whether it's real estate or relationship, is another important thing that I fleshed out. Counting up the cost, right? You have a budget when you buy a home. Well, is there a budget for relationships? Well, there kind of is, right? Because some relationships are very costly. They can cost you your reputation. They can cost resources, finances. There are a number of things that you pour into a committed relationship that you have to decide whether or not you can afford it. And so we could go on and on, but contingency, there's a whole bunch of parallels that I was excited to bring together. And again, the formatting helps make it really, really clear.
Well, and again, we don't want to give away all the chapters because people need to go out and buy this book. And so we put the website there as well. But what is fun about what you just said and talked about a little bit is that, I remember a part in your book where you're talking about the relationship that, like you said, the requirements for building the house, the requirements for a successful relationship man. And I remember those, and he can't this, or he shouldn't be that. And then exactly that's what he was, I'm not going to give it away, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so that's
yeah.
kind of the fun of the human part of we make
Yes.
these plans, we do all that, and really, it's not really the plan for us. We think it is, but so that part, there's some great humor in it. It's written very straightforward. I think we talked about that. I really love that. You know, in our company, I get to read every book from word one to word, and there's a specific time in the process, and it's always my favorite time, one of my favorite times in the journey. And I'm very old school. I print it out, no matter, even if it's, you know, this much paper. And usually if it's this much paper and ink, I'll go to FedEx and spend a ton of money on it, just because I'm old school. And then I have my red pen and I just go through and savor it. And what I'm looking for amongst a lot of different criteria, but what I'm mainly looking for is it easy for me to read through? You know, there's, again, other characteristics, but for instance, here's a good example. This didn't apply to your book, but we don't really love footnotes in our manuscripts. Now, if our client insists, and I think I had one client insist, we will do footnotes. Otherwise, what we like to do is we like to do endnotes. It's important that we have citations, and we have them. But one of the reasons is we feel like that makes the reader stumble for a minute. You know, I'm reading something, now I've got this footnote thing, and so I'm going to, you know, divert my attention for a minute to look at it. And then now maybe my mind is wandering and I close the book because you've lost me.
Too much
So
work.
even factors like that. Yeah. So what I love about your book, getting back to your book, and I do believe this is true, and we talked about this, you did not lose me anywhere. You did not lose me anywhere as the reader. And that is just so important. And it really bodes to you on being a good, smooth writer with your thoughts in a consecutive, organized fashion. And then also, not trying to pat myself on the back, but definitely your editor was excellent. Your content editor to keep it going. It's a team effort.
It is. It was a great team effort. With my best efforts, I still wasn't 100% there. And it wasn't until your team came in and added their expertise that it became something I'm extremely proud of. So I've enjoyed the collaboration.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much. And I didn't pay you to say that, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Let me ask you, so just to stay on the book a little bit more.
Sure.
Now, so the book is written the way we formatted the chapter structure. And I was just talking to a new client about the chapter structure. So not only is the outline so essential, which when you came to us, you had your chapters written, you'd had the manuscript downloaded, so you'd had that. But the outline is key, first key. The second key is the chapter structure. You know, what does each chapter look like? And so the uniqueness of your book, we've never had a book like this before, is where the chapter structure is that you have a concept, whatever that might be, maybe budget, maybe finance, we'll say. And then, so the first part of the chapter is the budget as it relates to building your dream home. And then the second part of the chapter is your budget as it relates to building your dream relationship. So I just love that. It's very unique. And then it all comes together. And I knew if I was home on a Saturday, this would be my dog. So yeah. So I want to just, give a teaser there on another reason to buy this book and purchase it. Let me go on mute for my dog. And let me ask you, what would be your advice to someone that hasn't started, that we talked about? You know, people have told them they should write a book, and that after where you're at with your process.
Sure. If you have a concept, or someone said, gosh, you really should write that book, then the first step is to just surrender to that. Like, don't overanalyze your credentials, your capabilities. Like, oh, do I need to go and take a writing course? The most important thing is to write and to keep writing, to give yourself time and space, and figuring out what your best time of day is. I was a morning before the sun came up person. Before day clean is an expression in the Gullah culture. But anyway, so morning was my time. I set a timer to just sit there and let whatever comes out come out for that hour. I would not be ambitious and try to go to a bookstore and spend the day writing. You're going to get worn out and burnt out too quickly. But small increments is how you get there. It is not a sprint. It is definitely a marathon.
So I just oops, I thought I posted. How about enter? So I love what you're talking about. And yeah, you start at dark 30, 4 a.m. But it is something that we work with authors, and where we say it's called BIC, and that's butt and chair in a nice way. But it's put it on your calendar. I mean, I don't know if you're like me, but I am like married to my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, then I don't show up. And
Right.
if, and for me to do something, even for my family, even for my daughters, even for my personal, I had a tennis social last night I was going to, it was in my calendar telling me to go and get dressed and get ready. But that butt and chair, like you said, the most important thing is to just write. And, you hire an editor, you hire a writing specialist, you hire an author coach, all
Correct.
those are services we include, but you've got to download the content. Nothing starts until you download the content, which is, like you said, just right. And when I wrote my first book years ago, that's what they told me. They said, sit down. And it was like Tuesday and Thursday, a couple hours, those 2 days. And they said, even if you, and I don't know what they called it, we renamed it butt and chair, but even if you just sit at that time in front of your laptop, and maybe you're Googling other books covers that you like, or you're Googling something, or you're just doing something book related, you've got to have the discipline to make sure to finish the task of writing.
Absolutely.
And, I even, it's been more than a few authors I've talked to, potential authors that tell me they've been writing their book for 30 years.
Holy
Kind of blows
smoly.
me away.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, right?
I took more time than I thought. And it's because, life's, right? And busy tech career, married, family, you have other obligations. But I had to convince myself that this was my assignment. This was for me to do, and I was the only one who could write this story. And I had to make it bigger than me, right? Because if I just thought about it in terms of a little side project that I wanted to do, it's like any other project you have. You might have a list of projects that you haven't gotten to in your home. But I realized that it was something bigger than me. And so I had to just change my whole way of thinking about it and creating the discipline and prioritizing it. Really, really made the difference, because my other things that I've written, I wrote as a hobbyist. I wrote as something that, I write just to clear my head, or I write, just for the enjoyment of it, or I write just for the catharsis of it. But this project, and any project that you feel compelled to write, you have to realize it's bigger than you. You're the only one who can tell that story. Make it really, really high on your list of priorities, and just write. Just write. Don't overthink it. Don't try to be the editor, because you're going to have one later, and that's just going to distract you from getting the story out. So that's a challenge I think for all authors.
Thank you. Well, there's definitely a time to stop editing, is what
Right.
we hashtag it. And I've
Yep.
had those authors, and I've even had authors that are working with us for a few months, and we're past the content editing stage. And all of a sudden I get a boatload. Actually, it's happened recently. I'm not going to name names, client. But we're almost to the end, and they decide that they're going to just change the person, the third person or first person voice
Holy
at
schmoly.
this stage. And so, of course, my initial reaction is, what? Which the client doesn't see, of course. So then I'm like, okay, now let me ask the client, why is this coming up? What is it? What's behind this? And so then when I understood what was behind it, no, we didn't change it, but I could address that, and I can understand. And it was actually something kind of common that does come up every once in a while. But there is a point where you have to stop editing, and, because nothing will get finish, like, people that train for a marathon, then there's a point where you got to actually run the
Got to get out
marathon, do
there
your
and
best.
run.
And even if you don't, there's no certainty, right? You don't know 100% how it's going to end, the publishing journey or the marathon journey or whatever. And that's where you can say, look, I've done my due diligence. I've done my work. I've worked with my team. I think it's great. Let's just go for it. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. Thank you. Let me ask you, and I was having a coughing attack there. You probably saw that on the screen, everyone that saw us there. Sorry about that. We have a question. Let's answer a question. It says, how do you balance, she says, how do you balance, he says, DeMello, how do you balance the plot, character development, and themes in your writing? Now, that is more of a question for a fiction genre. Your book is nonfiction, and we, in our history now, 200 some authors and 70 some books, we are, I'd say, 95% nonfiction publishing house. Now, just so happens I've got three clients right now that are writing fiction books. So we happen to be going through this fiction phase. But, you still have the idea of the balancing the plot, and also, balancing the theme to the point of not being overtly, you could definitely, sometimes more is too much, less is more is a good idea, because as you do build in a nonfiction book from the chapter 1 engagement to chapter 2 to chapter 3, as you're building themes, you're building the whole picture until you get to the end. And I actually want to talk about the end of your book, because it's really nice how you ended it. So after you go through 13, 14 chapters, I can't remember for sure, but you get to the end, we knew that your readers would be like, okay, what's next now? So talk a little bit, Alison, about the very end. And this is the balancing, the plot parts of it.
Sure, of course. At the very end, after I share all of these hopefully helpful insights, you and I talked about, the readers wanting to do something or summarize it in a way that they can take those insights with them and actually apply them in their lives. And so I created a list of 20 questions that are helpful to find the answers to, regardless of whether you are interested in this book from a finding your dream home perspective or dream relationship perspective, or maybe you found both. It is a list of insightful questions that will help the reader understand more deeply whether or not they're in the best possible situation. And so those questions are very self-reflective, but they are mapped directly to the insights that are in the book. And so it will just get you thinking. And some people may be thinking, oh, my house isn't my dream house. It should be this, it should be that. And after reading the book, they might come to the realization that they are in the perfect home for them, and that the things that they might be focused on, usually it's the disease of comparison, right, are things that aren't as important to them in terms of their value system. It just may be some little cosmetic things like, oh, I visited someone's home and they had this, wine cellar that I thought was neat. And if my dream home, needs to have a wine cellar. Well, it's a nice to have, but is it a must have kind of thing? And so those questions, I think, will be fun to answer. Again, perfect if you're embarking on either of those milestones in your life. But great conversation questions as well. Like once you answer them, share them with your partner or share them with a friend or a family member. Great discussion questions. And so I'm really proud that we were able to put that in at the end.
They are. And I just sent out in the comments here, if anyone watching the stream live right now, we will rebroadcast it. If you'd like those questions, we're more than happy to provide you that document. It's a great great start. And, even right now where, we know that you're going to be speaking to the real estate industry type groups you have in the past. And I believe so. I know you've spoken many times to churches and that as well. But, it's a precarious time to say the least in terms of real estate. And so any tool that can help you focus in the areas that you need to be focused on and not get distracted by how precarious, to say the least, that the industry is right now, would be helpful. But I love that about your book. And, again, there's a hashtag. In fact, maybe we'll do a video series on it about making books unique. We all know, and we probably know this stat. I think is every 5 minutes there's a new book uploaded to Amazon.
Sure.
My favorite thing I used to say when we first started this company, when I would get calls from people saying, "Let me help your SEO," I said, there's nothing I can do that will ever make me rank above Amazon. So come on, right? And which is okay. All of that is okay. Because as you said, you're the only person that can write your own book. You're the only person that can tell your own story. And anyone that's listening to this, your book can be unique and impactful because you are unique and impactful in your own way. So I think your book, or I know your book, The Big Reveal, Alison, is definitely an example of a book that we're proud that we had worked on together with you, because it is so unique. And I challenge anyone to find at least the chapter format and the uniqueness of how we work together on the outline and the chapter format. I don't think it's out there. And then add the rockstar content that you did. It's going to be a winner.
I'm proud of it. I am proud of it. I don't think we could have done better if we tried. And so we're just going to have faith that the book's going to be so impactful and enjoyable that people are going to want to share it with their loved ones, with their friends. And we can just see what happens.
It's going to be great. We know what's going to happen. It is going to do all those things. And we're actually now to the end. So let's talk about, first of all, in the ticker, you can cut and paste it. And I put it in the comments as well. That's the landing page for the book. And what you can do there is you can join us at the book release party that's down in Sparksman Wharf, downtown Tampa Bay. Beautiful night. It'll be a beautiful night on May 15th at 6 p.m. We're going to have great hors d'oeuvre bites and some just a nice ambiance there as we celebrate the release. You can show up and buy a book there. You can pre-order a book today because we are on sale. We are on pre-order, and just connect with this author and get to know her a little better. And if you'd like her to speak on building the dream marriage or building the dream home, she is just amazing, as you heard her articulate and experienced and very positive, very, very influentially positive. We can all use that in our life. So, Alison, I told you this would go fast. I thank you so much.
Fast. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, everyone, for watching Now Conversation. See you next Saturday.
Take care. Bye.